Hello and welcome to Associated University, a group that is designed to provide supply chain management professionals with access to information on practical solutions concerning the industry's hot topics. Today we will be discussing OSHA regulations and the required training for powered industrial truck operators. Your presenter today is Christian Rentorf. Christian is currently the Quality Assurance Manager at Associated. He comes to us with over 20 years of experience in supply chain, material handling, and the aviation industries. During his career, he has conducted over 1,000 safety and technical training classes and is currently a certified course manager by the Raymond Corporation. And with that, I will pass it over to Christian to get us started.
Good morning, everyone. As Sherry mentioned, my name is Christian Rentorf, and today we'll be talking about operator training in the 1910-178 OSHA standard in regards to power industrial trucks. A little bit of background on the OSHA standard itself and operator training. The reason it came to become a federally mandated requirement to perform operator training was because of the accident and injury statistics in the industry. And a little bit of a background on that is that, roughly annually in the United States, there are about 95,000 forklift accidents every year. 38,000 of those are considered serious and about 100 deaths. A majority of these accidents are caused by some type of operator error, and OSHA estimates that about 25% of these are caused by inadequate training. It was for these reasons and these statistics that OSHA federally mandated training in 1991 for all powered industrial trucks. The 1910-178 standard for powered industrial trucks is one of the most commonly penalized standards in 2004. There were over 3,400 citations cited for violations of the standard, and the three most often cited were failure to ensure that each power industrial truck operator is competent to operate, failure to certify operators, and failure to evaluate operators once every 3 years. And we'll discuss a little bit more in detail those three elements moving forward. So today's agenda is we're going to discuss exactly what is a powered industrial truck and the classifications of each, and then on the 1910-178 standard for training requirements, program implementation, evaluation certification, avoidance of duplicate training, refresher training, record keeping, developing your program, and then we'll also discuss some training resources for employers and ultimately the benefits of operator training. So what exactly is a powered industrial truck? A powered industrial truck, now this definition here is determined by the American Society of Mechanical Engineering, and it is their definition of a powered industrial truck that OSHA uses when they reference the training for those. And the definition of that by the ASME is any mobile power-propelled truck used to carry, push, pull, lift, stack, or tier materials. Now, these trucks can be either ridden or controlled by a walking operator, and it does not include earth-moving or over-the-road haulage trucks. The next few slides we'll be seeing are giving examples of these trucks. The ITA truck classification is listed as such. Class 1 are your electric motor rider trucks. And again, we'll show you some examples of these. Class 2 is your electric motor narrow aisle trucks. Class 3 is your electric motor hand trucks and or hand rider trucks. Class 4 are the internal combustion engine trucks with solid or cushioned tires. Class 5 is the same type of truck but with pneumatic tires. And the last two classes, 6 and 7, are trucks that are considered powered industrial trucks but aren't typically seen in a warehouse environment. So this picture that is up here is an example of a Class 1 rider. It is either a stand-up or sit-down collar balance. It can be with either cushion and pneumatic tires. Class 2 is what they consider a narrow aisle trucks, and some examples that you show here is a side loader, order picker, and swing reach. The other truck listed but isn't shown in the picture is the reach truck, and those are our narrow aisles. Class 3 trucks are electric motor hand or hand rider trucks, and they can either have low lift platforms, low lift walkie pallets, or low lift walkie rider pallet. You guys can see that the two pictures of the trucks shown don't have a platform that can be ridden on, but there are many powered pallet jacks like this that you can, and they also would be considered a Class 3. Class 4 are your internal combustion engine trucks, and like we said earlier, the difference between Class 4 and 5 are simply the tires. Your Class 4 is a solid and cushioned tires, and your Class 5 happens to be your pneumatic tires, which typically is a higher capacity truck or not necessarily used in warehouse applications with perhaps the exception of a loading dock area. The other class trucks, like I mentioned earlier, aren't really considered warehouse type trucks, but nonetheless they are powered industrial, and that's your electric and internal combustion engine tractors, and finally your rough terrain forklifts. So those are the classifications as for the powered industrial trucks set by the OSHA standard 1910-178. And that will be the next portion that we'll talk about, is specifically the content in that standard. So the 1910-178 standard, most relevant is to the training requirements for powered industrial trucks. Okay, and the OSHA standard in trucks is what they call performance orientated. And what this does, it allows employers to tailor a training program to the characteristics of the workplace and the particular types of power industrial trucks operated. Now, in that training, there are 3 specific things that have to happen, and that's what's listed next. First of all, the operators must be trained on the type of truck or trucks they operate on the job. What this means, if you have different types of trucks, like we said, the class 1, 2, or 3, a person would have to be certified on each one of those specific models. Okay? Next, the operators must be trained in the environment in which they work. What this means mostly that if you had an operator that has experience from a previous employer and he says he's certified, technically he is not, because he has never operated in your particular facility. You may have certain things going on inside that they need to be trained upon, so site-specific is critical to the training requirement for the 1910-178 standard. And the last one is operators must be evaluated and certified in both functions, and we'll discuss a little bit more in detail what exactly that means. Some other standards for training. The employer shall certify that each powered industrial truck operator is competent to operate a powered industrial truck safely, as demonstrated by the successful completion of the training and evaluation specified in the OSHA standard. And the important element in that is the employer's responsibility to ensure that each operator is certified. Next, it is prior to permitting an employee to operate a powered industrial truck, except for training purposes, the employer shall ensure that each operator has successfully completed the training required in this paragraph. Now, to elaborate on that training purposes, we'll talk about it a little bit more in the next slide. In regards to training, a question that comes up is well, I have a guy that we've just hired. I want him to operate in our facility, but he isn't certified yet, and how will I go about doing that? And there is a provision in that standard that is specified here. So you can have a trainee or a non-certified operator working in your specific environment if, number one, they're under direct supervision of a person who has the knowledge, training, and experience to train operators. And then the other is in an area where such operation does not endanger trainee or other employees. For program implementation, some things that are stated is training shall consist of a combination of, and these are the elements that, again, are required by OSHA. Number one is you have to have some type of formal instruction. Now, that instruction can come in the means of a lecture, a discussion, an interactive computer learning, or written material. It doesn't have to be all, but at least some type of formal instruction. The next requirement is some type of practical instruction, and that could be from the demonstration of a trainer and then actual hands-on exercises and operating the truck performed by the trainee. And the third and most critical element, and it's one that typically gets missed and becomes a violation from OSHA, is the evaluation process of the operators performing in their specific workplace. The next portion of the standard is all operator training should be completed by persons who have the knowledge, training, and experience to train powered industrial truck operators and evaluate their competence. And the question then becomes, well, what is a qualified trainer? And this next section is directly from the standard, and by definition from OSHA, a qualified trainer is a person who, by possession of a recognized degree, certificate, or professional standing, or who, by extensive knowledge, training, and experience, has demonstrated the ability to train and evaluate powered industrial truck operators. Trainers are not required to attend a train the trainer course. I know that's a big question. It sounds ironic that we're required to train our operators, but there really is no specified training by OSHA for the trainers themselves. Some more topics on the program implementation. Operators shall receive initial training in the following topics, except in those topics in which the employer can demonstrate are not applicable to the safe operation of the employer's workplace. And the things you have to cover are truck-related topics, work-related topics, and requirements of the standard. What this basically means is that, for example, OSHA will suggest that you need to train operators how to operate on ramps. However, if you have no ramps in your facility, then you do not have to cover that information in your training. It's only relevant to your particular location. Some truck-related topics that need to be covered in training: operator instructions, warnings, and precautions for the types of trucks the operator be authorized to operate. Differences between a truck and an automobile. Again, it's important that you use that analogy, and OSHA's thought process behind that is most people that have operated a power industrial truck have previous experiences driving an automobile, and they can make the analogy in between the two. Truck controls and instrumentation, where they're located, what to do, and how they work. Engine and motor operation, steering and maneuvering, visibility, including the restrictions that may acquire visibility from load carrying, and fork and attachment, adaptation, operation, and use limitations. All of these must be required in your training program. Some more truck-related topics: the capacity and stability of your truck. A lot of these trucks are derated as they carry stuff, and that information needs to be incorporated into your training program. Vehicle inspections and maintenance that the operator is required to perform. OSHA requires that a pre-operational checklist is done on a forklift during every shift at the bare minimum, and that line item is pertaining to. Refueling, interchanging, or charging batteries, limitations of operating, or any other instructions, warnings, or precautions listed in the owner's manual for the types of vehicles the employer is being trained to operate. Some work-related topics that need to be required in your training programs. Surface conditions where the vehicle will be operated. There are multitudes of surfaces in many types of warehouses and in different locations, from racking areas to dock plates, and because of slippery conditions or other factors, that information definitely needs to be included into your training program. The composition of loads and how do they carry them. Manipulation of these loads in regards to stacking and unstacking, pedestrian traffic in areas, and narrow aisle and other restricted areas where their vehicle will be operated. All of these elements need to be included in the training program. Other workplace-related topics: hazardous locations, ramps and other sloped surfaces which could affect stability, closed environments or other areas where insufficient ventilation could cause buildup of carbon monoxide or diesel exhausts, and other unique or potentially hazardous environmental conditions in the workplace that it could affect operation. The standard also talks about refresher training, and the definition of the refresher training and evaluation of its effectiveness can be conducted to ensure the operator has the knowledge and skills needed to operate the powered industrial truck safely. Refresher training and relevant topics can be provided when the operator has either been involved in an accident or near miss, if a different type of truck has been assigned to the operator, if a work area or environment where the operator has been working has been changed. An example of that would be a potential rack reconfiguration, which could cause differences in truck patterns and truck operation. If the operator has been assigned to a different work area and the specifics of that area need to be covered, or if the operator has recently had a poor evaluation or been observed to have violating a safety rule and been required that they do some remedial refresher training. An evaluation of an operator performance shall be conducted at least once every 3 years, and that is the minimum by the OSHA standard. As far as the evaluation process, it's a critical element of training, and it needs to be done, and they touched a little bit more about it on these next slide. The evaluation shall be conducted either after initial training, after refresher training, or again, at the minimum, at least once every 3 years. The evaluation of the operator's performance can be determined in a number of ways, and it is, you can either have a discussion with an employee, you can do an observation of the employee while they're operating their truck. It can be done by performance or written tests, or by written documentation of previous training. There is something in there about duplicate training, and all it states is if an operator has previously received training in a topic specified in paragraph 1.3 of the 1910 standard, such training is appropriate for the truck and work conditions encountered. Additional training on that topic is not required if the operator has been evaluated and found competent to operate the truck properly. Again, evaluation of their operation performance is the critical element. Now, certification. This certification from the employer says that each operator has been trained and has been evaluated. And the certification shall include 3 specific items. First of all, it should include the name of the operator that has been trained and evaluated, the date, the training, and the date of the evaluation. There is one other item that has to be there, and that is the identity of the person or the trainer that performed both the training and evaluation. And then the last item that needs to be on there is the type of trucks that the operator be authorized to operate. It is a model-specific certification. As far as record keeping goes, employers who evaluate operator performance more often than once every 3 years must only keep the most recent certification record. Otherwise, records must be kept for 3 years, and that would include written tests, performance tests, and any refresher training records. And again, this is an OSHA requirement of 3 years. Your human resource or legal department may require documentation for longer, but at the very least, it is a 3-year minimum for OSHA. As far as developing your program, one of the most critical elements is becoming familiar with the equipment that you have. You want to make yourself familiar with the owner and operator manual for each type of truck that you have. You want to identify the types of trucks in your facility and who will be required to operate the vehicles. You also want to take a look at your training methods and develop the content for your training program. Since OSHA is very critical to the evaluation process, it's also important that you determine how you'll be evaluating your operators after their training, and it should include some type of refresher training as well. Operator training should be a part of a larger comprehensive powered industrial truck safety program. Hazard identifications and possible solutions for it, training and evaluation of operator competence, any type of supervision, maintenance and repair procedures, facility design, operating procedures, lift truck selection criteria. Written programs should consist of following topics: the purpose, scope, and roles and responsibilities, company policies, training, safety practices, and record keeping, all in regards to powered industrial trucks. As far as training resources that you can use for your individual training programs, the OSHA standard indicates that the trainer and evaluator need not be the same person. An employer can choose to hire someone else to perform operator training. And some of those examples are lift truck manufacturers, a local safety or health organization, private consultants, or a local trade or vocational school. Many lift truck manufacturers provide their dealerships with a comprehensive program for training operators of the use of their equipment. This allows the distributor to provide truck-specific training to its customer operators, and programs offer educational materials in many digital formats. In addition to operator training, many distributors offer a train-the-trainer program. Companies with a large number of operators and or companies with high operator turnover may benefit from a train-the-trainer class. OSHA does not require that trainers go through a train-the-trainer course. However, I would suggest that if you were to use a training kit from a manufacturer or dealership, that a train-the-trainer course is done to provide them the information and get them started with the training materials. Workplace-specific training needs to be provided by someone who knows your operation as well as the operator's responsibilities in it. Do not let an outside source tell you that they will certify your operators. As I mentioned earlier, ultimately it is the responsibility of the employer to certify your operators, not an outside source. Some of the benefits of operator training. The ultimate goal of training is to reduce the risk of accident and injury to everyone in the workplace. And an effective truck operator training program will benefit the employee, the customer, and ultimately the company. Some more benefits: that it will reduce the number of accidents and injuries caused by lift truck accidents. A safer environment is a less stressful work environment, and overall improve company morale. As far as profitability, it would obviously reduce some damaged products, increase product delivery time, but ultimately increase a safe environment for employers to work. It will also decrease lost time, product damage, and equipment repairs. It could help increase productivity, reduce operating costs, and help companies achieve the best return on their investments. In summary, the OSHA 1910-178 standard of powered industrial trucks continues to be one of the most commonly penalized standards. Powered industrial truck operator training, they must be trained on the type of truck, they must be trained in the environment in which they work, and ultimately they must be evaluated and certified in both functions by a qualified person.
Thank you, Christian, for presenting this material, and thank you for joining us today. We hope you have found this information to be relevant and valuable to your organization. Additionally, if you have any questions about OSHA requirements or safety training, feel free to tweet us at AssociatedUNIV, email us at info@associated-solutions.com, or visit our website at www.associated-solutions.com. Thank you and have a great day.